Hi, I'm Lynn Johnson with On the Bricks, and we're here today to talk about the importance of keeping and investing in our employees so that business is better. And to talk to us first is Liz McCullough from the Urban Brew. Lizzie?
Hello, thank you. Thank you for having me. So basically, my name's Liz, and I've been at Urban Brew for about 6 years. That is a coffee shop here in Guyman, for anyone that doesn't know. Basically, in those 6 years, I've kind of hired a lot of people, and in all the times of hiring, to be honest, I have never found like the perfect secret to get that perfect candidate, because sometimes you can have someone that's perfect on paper and then they actually start working and oh my goodness, they are a dud. But I will say this, along that 6 years, I have figured out some, kind of things that help and actually beneficial. And so I will share that with you today. But basically, you've got kind of like the standard hiring process. Where, obviously you need to figure out what specific qualifications you need. So whether or not that's someone with like computer skills or, bilingual, or someone that runs like a 5-minute mile, or, whatever you want, you have to figure out what you need. And then as soon as you get all the applications in, obviously, you can filter those good ones from the bad or whatever. But then also you need your technical skills versus personality. Okay, so the example I always use is like PTCI versus Urban Brew. Okay, Urban Brew, I always hire for personality. I can teach anyone how to make a good cup of coffee or how to do latte art or a sandwich, but I cannot teach them how to talk to people. I can give them advice, but I think people either not naturally have it or they don't. And so for me, I always hire for personality, because I want someone that's quirky and, funny and, now on the flip side of that, if my internet's broken or, my phone line doesn't work at my house and I get, Joe from PTCI come over and, we have a great chat and he's got a good personality. Well, if he's left and my internet still isn't fixed, then obviously I would be kind of thinking, oh man, I really wish that guy had some technical, skills whenever he was hired. And so, as far as hiring, you really kind of want to think about that. But then also some tips that I've kind of learned at Urban Brew that work. We kind of conduct interviews as a team. If you ever come into Urban Brew, I feel like we're all very close and we have, good banter and we tell stories and, whatever. But it's for us, all the people that are there, the full-time ones, that kind of know all the information, we kind of hire as a team. We kind of do the interview as a team, because it's one of those that it's a critical decision. And so critical decisions should be made by people that are most affected by the outcome. And so that's kind of what we do. But then also, it's really easy to fool one person. It's kind of tough to fool a team. And so, whether or not you use that in, your HR division, or whether or not you use that as, for all bank tellers or whatever, I kind of think it's a cool system just because, you might not be intuitive, but I guarantee you someone on your team is, and there's a red flag going up, and so I think that's kind of a cool way to kind of, hire people and kind of, weed out the bad ones. But then also make it a conversation instead of an intimidation session. To me, I get really nervous in interviews. I'm not my best version of myself because I'm sitting there and I'm just nervous or whatever. And so kind of make it a conversation. Make it comfortable for them. And it's I'll have conversations with them. And yes, I will ask them the important questions that you need to ask, but I try to make them feel comfy because I feel like that way I will see the best version of themselves. And that's what I'm looking at to see if they've got potential to work at Urban Brew. But also always listen to instinct. We have it for a reason. If your instinct is saying, oh yeah, this guy kind of looks good, but there's something about him, then there probably is something about him. And if you kind of look back on the past, if you've hired that person and you were kind of thinking, ooh, I shouldn't have, you should have listened to your instincts. So always do that. But then also some hiring practices to stay away from. Hiring as a reaction. yeah, you should always be proactive about hiring and not be reactive. Whenever you hire, for a reaction, that's usually whenever you just hire because, you need someone right now. And so you kind of fill that position quicker than, getting someone that's actually qualified. Which, we all have those, employees that, someone just got fired or they just randomly didn't show up. So, you have to replace them quickly. But even so, make sure you do a thorough job of it. And then never disregard the red flags. I mean, that goes hand in hand with the instinct thing. You see red flags all the time. So make sure you see those. Don't just, bypass them. But then also rushing the interview. I think a lot of times people who are giving interviews, they're so concerned about asking the next question in their head that they actually forget to listen. And so make sure and take the time and actually listen, and don't rush it, because I guarantee, if you are rushing it, you're probably missing some of those red flags that are going up. But then whenever you do have this person that's hired or whatever, I think one thing that you should really, really, really focus on is customer service. Customer service is vital, and we really focus on that at Urban Brew. But I think sometimes you really have to get across that customer service needs to become a goal. And I think sometimes that is tough, but you need to emphasize how important it is. But then also, without customers, we don't have jobs. It's insane how many people don't realize that. If you make a customer mad, say I accidentally I throw a latte in someone's face. Do you think they're going to come back? Probably not. And they're probably going to go out and tell 15 people how stupid Liz is. And so make sure and treat customers like they should, because, without that customer bringing money in, you don't have money for your business, which means you don't have a job. And so I think that's so important to get that across. But then, so I've really kind of been thinking, what is the difference? What is the difference between people who have good customer service and people that, don't really shine in that area? And I was thinking about it. And to me, what I think it is I think it's kind of the make a difference connection. To me, as a human, I feel like we all kind of want to make a difference. I think whether or not that's in, whenever you're little, wanting to grow up and be a doctor and try to save lives, or whether or not it's, write a book that you really want to influence people with, or, whatever. I think that most people do want to make a difference. And so I think one key of customer service in business is trying to get across that even if it's just, handing people a cup of coffee or giving a muffin with a smile or, doing a change order at a bank or whatever, I think it's important to make people realize that they are making a difference in those small acts, because it is making a difference, because you just made it easier on that customer that came, that needed change. That way they didn't have to go find $10 in their purse, or it's just, people come into Urban Brew all the time and they're tired whenever they walk in there. And so whenever we hand them coffee and they leave a little bit more energized, that is making a difference. Even if it's just a small one, it's making a difference, which can set people up for a better day. And so I think that's something that I think that's kind of how at Urban Brew, hopefully that's how I get across to my employees. That's why customer service is so important, just because you are making a difference, even if it is making coffee or, baking a sandwich or, whatever. But then there's also this really good quote that I like, and it's from John Mackey, the CEO of Whole Foods, and he's amazing. I don't know if you guys have ever been there, but I love that place. But he's just got a great, if you go into any Whole Foods or whatever, they've just got a great business plan. But basically, this is one of his quotes. He said, "We humans can choose to exist at a caterpillar level, consuming all we can, taking as much as possible from the world and giving little back. We are also capable of evolving to a degree that is no less dramatic than what happens to a caterpillar, transforming ourselves into beings who create value for others and help make the world more beautiful." That, to me, is the point of good customer service, is creating values for others. And so you really want to kind of get that across to your employees. But then also, if you kind of make that a common goal, then I think if you do have common goals, then I feel like it's easier to keep the employees around. If you're all kind of focused on that same finish line or whatever, then I think they're probably most likely going to stay than if there is no finish line and they're just wait, what am I doing here? as far as like also like retaining employees, I think people always need the opportunity to grow, because I think that's another like, human thing you need. You need to be able to grow. And if you're bored, then I feel like, growth can't really happen. And so that's another thing, is you have to prevent boredom, and you have to find new challenges for employees to keep them there. And you have to find ways to, make them feel like they are making a difference. But then also, of course, like, we all know with like retaining employees, there's also like the perks of the job. Like at Urban Brew, we have like phenomenal customers who tip us. And so like on top of, people getting paid, just like kind of regular amounts, we also get tips we get to take home every, 2 weeks. And then also, we get like half off of our food, not just whenever we're working, but then also anytime we get half of our food or drinks. And so I think you do, as a company, you really need to find ways to, make people feel appreciated, and that, you're glad that they're there. But overall, we kind of look at the Richard Branson, he's like, the Virgin Mobile, he's like come up with all of those like great companies. But it's like basically what he says is happy employees equals happy customers. If you make your employees happy, then customers will be happy. And so I think all of those are ways that you, can kind of keep employees just by like making them happy, and in return they will help you out by making customers happy. But basically that's all I've got today. I hope that it was helpful and that you learned a couple things. And
well, I have some questions.
Yes, please.
Okay, when you're talking about making a difference, and you talked about as a job, but you guys also do things within the community.
Absolutely.
That.
Yeah, and so, I mean, like, we always try to, like, help out the schools in any way we can, or, like, help any, like, sort of, like, 5K going on, like, or donating, baked goods or whatever, just because, I mean, I think it's important in the grand scheme of things to make a difference, but then also without the community we live in, we don't have a business. And so, as far as, like, basically, if the community helps us out, or us out, then we'll help them out. And so, even just like, 5Ks or whatever, we always try to do what we can and take part.
You usually have a team,
Uh-huh.
and you do it together, and you guys often have a lot of fun.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Oh, yeah, and I think Guyman holds some very good, I don't know, like Bank of the Panhandle. I think they're phenomenal at, like, team events, or like 5Ks. You always see them running around with, that Bank of the Panhandle shirt on. And so I think it's really important to, take part into the community and give back what you can. Yeah.
Any other questions?
No. I was pretty solid, covered it.
Good.
Liked it.
Good. Thank you. Thank you.
And I just want to say, the way that we picked who talked today, Liz, and then in just a minute, but we did because on Facebook we asked who has the best customer service in town, and it is invariably Urban Brew comes up and Dizzy Bees comes up, and neither one of those are high paying jobs, and yet they're the ones that seem to treat people in a way that's noticeable, and that's pertinent.
Yeah. Yep, I mean, I think we try to. I mean, I was discussing this with my mum last night. I don't think that we ever, I think at the beginning of Urban Brew, yes, of course, we wanted to give people a good experience, but I don't think it was ever our goal to, I don't really think I thought about customer service. But then I think, I don't know, I think somehow it just came along, and then, a couple years down the road, I just, you just realize how important customer service is, and, how you have to treat people right, just outside of business too. You just have to treat people right. And it's I just try to hire really nice, genuine people. And they're the ones who have the best customer service, just because they're genuinely nice and they actually care, how you get your coffee, or, whether or not you like your food. I just think you just have to be nice. And so I don't think it was ever in the business plan, I don't think there was ever a section that was customer service, but I think it's just one of those things that I think, I don't know, it made sense. And whenever I'm teaching lattes or whatever, I guarantee you lattes and how to do them, customer service is right there up at the top, just because you don't have a business if you don't have customers. And if you've got really bad customer service, why would people go to you? And so, I mean, I think in Guyman, I think that more businesses should definitely focus on customer service. Like, because there's so many times that I walk into places and I'm like, really? Like, I'm standing here and no one's seeing me and it's awkward. What do I do? You know? And it's like, we never want to create, we want people to feel welcome and that, hey, come in, join us, have coffee with us, you know, sit down. Like, that's what we want. We want inviting. And so, and that's one thing that businesses should definitely work on.
So what do you do when you have an employee who fails in customer service? Put them in the kitchen?
Truly, it's funny because, like, I think if we have people that don't work out, I think they just naturally go. Like, something comes up and they're like, hey, I can't work here anymore. Like, school is, you know, too much or whatever. But it sounds weird. Like, I mean, obviously me, I'll be like, hey, listen. And then I'll give them the whole speech about, you don't know what kind of day that person's having. They could be having an absolutely awful day. If you greet them with a smile and you listen to them, like, actually listen, like, you know, whenever you say, hi, how are you? You know, how many times do you get that? Hi, how are you? And then they're like, oh, good, can I, you know, like, there's no conversation, but we actually try to have conversations. And so I tell, like, an employee that's not necessarily the best at customer service, actually listen and actually have a conversation with them. Like, you know, these people matter or whatever. And so then it does start clicking. It really does. Like, they're like, oh, okay. Or even I just have to say, have you ever walked into somewhere and people haven't greeted you, how awkward that is? And they're like, oh, yeah. Then they're kind of like, oh, that, yeah, I understand. You know, we don't want that. But truthfully, I think it's one of those that if for some reason, like the customer service, like if it's not that good, I will work with them. But if they're one of those people that just, they don't understand it, like usually they leave like it just, they naturally just go kind of, like something comes up. It's so weird. I don't know. And I don't know whether or not they just don't feel like they vibe with everyone else at Urban Brew that has phenomenal customer service. But it's like usually they just, you know, I don't fire them or anything, but they just are like, oh yeah, hey, you know, it turns out I'm moving to Iowa, or, you know, something like that. And so, I don't know, I mean, I love that it works that way. It makes my job a lot easier. But I think it, like, you know, they just kind of filter out and they just kind of go.
Jennifer Williams has a knack for getting employees to treat people well and to stay quite a while in an industry that is notorious for turnover. And so that's why we've asked you to give us some of your hints and clues.
It's very hard. Customer service is something that, like Liz said, you really have to have a knack at. We try to welcome everybody when they come into the store, and I try to stress that to my employees because, like she said, if you don't have customers, you don't need employees. I think it's very important to greet, to thank someone for their purchase. For instance, the other day I went to the grocery store, and the clerk was scanning my groceries and having a conversation with the next clerk, and didn't acknowledge me the whole time, and I bought like $50-some worth of groceries. And I felt so out of place and so upset. And so when she got done and I paid my money, I said, thank you. And she just kind of looked at me like, but, you know, it's just very important, you know, because our money, everybody's money is hard to earn, you know, and you want to feel like you're wanted, needed. Probably one of the hardest things we have at the store, a lot of people with cell phones, you know, come in and you try to be friendly to them and they're on the phone the whole time, you know. So that's one of our pet peeves, you know, put your phone down because we want to talk to you, you know. It's just very important, and some people don't have it. They just don't have the personality, and I try to talk to them, and there again, sometimes it just doesn't work out because they just don't have the niceness, you know. They're not a people person. I've hired people and they've worked 2 or 3 days and they just didn't come back. So you got to be nice to people. It's very important.
So what do you say would be some of the reasons why you tend to get employees to stay with you?
I think it's because we treat our employees kind of like family. Anytime they need help with something, whether it's children or needs a small loan between paydays, something like that. They need to be late because they need to go pick their child up or, something like that. We just try to work with everybody. My husband and I have worked for other people all our life. This is our first owned business. And so we've been on the other side much more longer than we've been on this side. And we just know how to treat people, I think. We treat our employees good, and I'm pretty sure all of them would say that. We have a couple that's been with us, probably going on 7-8 years. And, we started giving vacations because we don't offer any benefits. So we started giving a week's paid vacation, and that seemed to help people to stay. We do a wonderful Christmas party, but just take care of your employee, and, they will take care of your customer, I do believe.
So if you gave any advice, say the top 2 things to do as a business owner in relation to your employees, what would you name those top 2 things?
I don't know. You just, like I say, you just got to take care of people. I don't know. I'm real good. I'm probably not the best boss there ever was because I'm too lenient. My husband tells me that every day. But I get the job done. I get my employees to do the job, usually with a smile on their face. So we just work together as a good team. Our employees, us, we're just more family oriented.
Which you can be with a small number.
Mm-hmm, right, yeah. Yeah, we have like 6 employees usually at most, usually like 3 full-time, 3 part-time. And it works out pretty good. I got a couple of bank employees, not from this bank, but, everybody seems to need a part-time job, to make things work, It's a struggle out there.
So let's open it up here. You guys, name something that would be one of your best employees or that they did for you as an employee?
I don't really have any employees, but I do have a question. Whenever you first started your business, I'm sure you were extremely involved, and I'm sure you pulled shifts and stuff.
Right.
Now that you've owned it for how many years?
12.
12. So do you feel like that you've been able to take steps away from it and rely more on your employees that have been there for 7 to 8 years? Or
Yes, we have. We can take off now, for days at a time or a week. And I have Leanne, she does books for me, and she's been there for about 7 years.
Right.
And she'll do books, and, she can make a lot of the food and everything that I make. We have Amanda and Jan, and there again, they can order lottery. They can do a lot of stuff, we do a lot of stuff, via cell phone if we're gone. But, yeah, we feel very
really
confident.
Priceless, kind of a good
Right.
quality to have.
Right.
In people.
Yeah, because,
Employees.
you got to be able to trust your employees because that's very important, especially when you're dealing with money. You got to be able to trust them, and it works out really well, with the ones that we have, and, they're hard to hang on to. Somebody's always, I have a lot of customers come in there and talk to my employees and say, hey, why don't you come over here? I don't necessarily like that, but, I know it happens.
Yeah.
The majority
It's
of them will
actually a
tell me about
compliment
it.
to you.
Yeah, the majority will tell me, and it's like, oh. So, but, just treat your employees good, and they will take care of your customers.
Clarify the question.
All right, so you've had good and bad employees. What were a couple of the characteristics of the really good employers, is what I should have said, of your best employers?
Well, I think those employees
No,
What
employers.
would have been my best employers. I think myself. I was self-employed for 7 years because I come from a customer service background. a sales and customer service, which is really kind of a hand-in-hand thing. I often did things that all the companies I ever worked with wouldn't do, and you stay focused on the customer and you do what's right by the customer. And if it costs you money, you're earning a customer. And so, but I often say it's every customer has an issue with the people that they do business with at some point, and it's not that happens so much as is what did the company do about it. And that's the story that gets told forward. And so that's the kind of way I operated my business when I was doing it. So is to resolve the issue, figure out what it is, what makes people happy, resolve the issue, and they'll come back to you. So.
That's a good answer.
Well, and I think you did it towards customer, but I think it's also true with employees.
Mm-hmm.
You need to resolve issues with
Yeah.
employees.
Right.
And so I think it could go both ways.
Yeah, it does. It's employees are customers of the employer. They are our internal customers. You need to treat them as well as you do your external customers. And there's a lot more perks and benefits for the internal employees rather than the external employees. But the what's being said is that nothing happens till something gets sold. In most cases, you don't need employees, and if you can't get any products or services to them, and so all of those are a lineage, from the customer to the employee to the company. So they all exist for each other.
And employees are costly investment. Aaron, with the bank, how long does it take for somebody to be fully trained?
Well, it certainly depends on the position, but a teller, for example, it will take at least 2 weeks for a teller to get a drawer. And so that's 2 weeks of someone's time spending with them going over policy, procedures, regulations. We're heavily regulated. So you have a good 6 to 9 weeks before that person is fully confident. And so that can be expensive. So you're right.
It's expensive because they're not getting the work done yet,
Right.
because they're being trained, and somebody's taken outside of their work to do the training too.
Correct.
And so the investment's high. Paperwork in hiring.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Sure. And if that person doesn't work out, then you have to start again. And so you certainly want to know soon if
Right.
things are going to work out. And you asked what are some of the best employers. I think those people who are open to two-way feedback. So it's certainly, as a manager, it's really easy to say, you're doing this wrong, you're doing that wrong, and forget to compliment, forget to say, you're doing this very well. What do you need from me in order to be successful in this position? And I think sometimes employers do a really good job at that. And I think the most successful ones are the ones that welcome the feedback, and then they give the tools to the employees. So what do you need to get your job done? What are you lacking, and how can we make that happen? So it's a cycle of training and making sure employees are fully prepared to do the job they've been hired to do.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to ask something of somebody and not give them what they need to do it. You're right. Yeah. Wow. I was thinking, what you were talking about. It's I used to work for a company where we had to buy our own pencils.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And there were a lot of good things about that company. There were a lot of good things, and this is, holy Toledo, a lot of years since. And what do I remember? That we had to buy our own office supplies. So what are we going to be remembered for as employers?
It's a good question.
Yeah, I think it's important. And I have one other thing. I would like to hear from the group what Liz talked about on to make a difference connection. What do you guys think about that?
We'd like to make a difference at Dizzy Bees being mom and pop owned. The fact that, if you walk in and you're looking for something and we don't have it, we try to get it. We'll research and search for it, and try to bring it in. My first question is, you're going to come back and buy it, right? Because I have gotten stuff and then I never see the person again. But we just try to we want to be different than all the other convenience stores, gas stations, and stuff like that. And a lot of people say, well, we didn't know that you serve food in here. You can go to any convenience store and get a roller grill item and stuff like that. We don't have one. So we want to be totally different. So I'm thinking that's what we're going to be remembered for, other than our bee collection. And some little kid told his mom, take me to the store that has the bees on the floor. So, it made an impression on him. So.
What do you think about the Make the Connection?
I just think it's genuinely, and whenever I get a new massage client, I mean, first time it's an intimate setting. I'm very personally close to them. I'm giving them a massage. I just think it's important to have communication and talk to them, because I do care about each of my customers. I want to know how their day was, or why is their neck tight, or what's going on. And a lot of the time, if I can figure out what's going on in their life, for example, I've had this client with a lot of hip pain, and I'm like, well, tell me, have you been working extra? Sometimes if you're sitting in a desk for a prolonged period, it really hurts your hips. And she's like, I've been sitting at my desk, and I've also been sitting different at my desk. I've been slouching and not sitting right. And I'm like, well, can you adjust that? And then the next time I see her in 2 weeks, she's like, hey, I took your advice. I got a standing desk. I've gotten all this other stuff. And I suggest to a lot of my clients to get yoga balls to sit on that have desk jobs. And I mean, that really helps them. And I think that having a personal connection I can service them better in a massage.
Right.
And to a degree, just knowing a little bit more about their life. Because having a farmer rancher come in and massaging someone that sits at a desk all day is totally different. Yeah. Smell and
It's just a fact,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
BOP does quite a bit of community. So what's your comment on that?
On making a connection, I think Liz is right and Jennifer is right. If there's lots of other banks, just so going back to BOP, there's other banks in the community, and I believe the way we set ourselves apart is being involved and welcoming customers when they come in, saying hello, like Liz says, can make a difference in a person's day. You don't know what that person's going through, and so adding that extra touch with each connection, and then being involved in the community and as well as the products and services that we offer, sets us apart, I believe, as a bank.
And we all want to, and that's one of the things that our business classes are geared towards. It's to help the businesses who want to get better have people to talk to and ask questions of.
Right.
And so I need to do the plug. Main Street, Guyman, Predsy, and the Guyman Chamber of Commerce are putting these together, and we want to thank all the speakers and everybody. All of them come of their own time, get people to cover for them. Bank of the Panhandle has hosted them, and we really appreciate that.
And they've been very helpful.
Thank you.